What if I told you that the kid everyone called stupid in middle school would one day become one of the most successful people in his town? This is the true story of how 5 simple lessons changed everything. Picture this, a quiet neighborhood in the suburbs of Colorado, where the mountains kiss the sky and life moves at its own pace. There's a kid named Ethan, 13 years old, backpack slung over one shoulder, walking home from Jefferson Middle School. He's just like any other kid, right? Playing pickup basketball with his buddies after school, listening to his playlist on repeat, scrolling through his phone, living in his own little bubble. But here's the thing, Ethan had a secret. A secret that was eating him alive from the inside. School was his nightmare. While his classmates were acing their tests and raising their hands with confident answers, Ethan was drowning. Math problems looked like ancient hieroglyphics to him. History dates, forget it. Science concepts, they went in one ear and straight out the other. And the worst part? His classmates noticed. They'd snicker when he stumbled over an answer. They'd roll their eyes when the teacher called on him. Every laugh, every whisper, every sidelong glance chipped away at whatever confidence he had left. Ethan started believing what they thought, that he was just dumb, that he'd never amount to anything, that he was destined to fail. One afternoon in late September, when the autumn leaves were just starting to turn golden, something inside Ethan finally broke. School had just let out, and most kids were rushing to catch their buses or meet up with friends. But Ethan stayed behind. He walked slowly down the empty hallway, his sneakers squeaking against the polished floor, until he reached room 214. Mr. Harris, the philosophy teacher, was still there, sitting at his desk, reading a worn paperback book. Mr. Harris wasn't like the other teachers. He wore flannel shirts and old jeans, had a calm presence about him, and actually seemed to care about his students as people, not just test scores. Ethan knocked softly on the open door. Mr. Harris looked up and smiled. "Ethan, come on in. What's on your mind?" Ethan hesitated, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. His throat felt tight, but he'd come this far. "Mr. Harris, I need help. I'm failing everything. I can't focus, I can't remember anything, and honestly, I'm starting to think I'm just not smart enough for school. If there's anything you can tell me, anything at all." Mr. Harris closed his book and gestured to the chair across from him. "Sit down, son." Ethan sat. Mr. Harris leaned back in his chair, studying the boy for a moment. Then he said something Ethan didn't expect. "You know what? You're not alone. Not even close. Half the kids in this school feel exactly the way you do right now. They're just too scared to say it out loud. But here's the thing, Ethan. You walked in here today. You asked for help. That takes more courage than acing any test. And that tells me you've got what it takes to turn this around." Ethan felt a tiny flicker of hope. Mr. Harris continued, "I'm going to share 5 lessons with you. Not textbook stuff, but real lessons about how your mind works and how you can make it work for you. If you actually use them, I promise you, everything will change. You ready?" Ethan nodded. "Yeah, I'm ready." Mr. Harris stood up and walked over to a shelf where he kept various objects, props he used for his philosophy class. He grabbed a glass mason jar filled with muddy, brownish water and set it on the desk between them. "First lesson, and this is the foundation for everything else, you've got to calm your mind. Look at this jar. What do you see?" Ethan looked at the murky water. "Looks like dirty water, sir." "Exactly. Now watch." Mr. Harris set the jar down, and they both sat in silence. Minutes passed. Slowly, very slowly, the dirt and sediment began to settle to the bottom. The water above it started to clear. After about 10 minutes, the transformation was obvious. The water was crystal clear. "Now what do you see?" Mr. Harris asked. "It's clear now." "Right. Your mind is exactly like this water, Ethan. When you're stressed, when you're worried about failing, when you're thinking about what your classmates said, when you're panicking about the next test, your mind is muddy. You can't think straight. You can't focus. You can't learn. But when you let all that settle, when you give your mind a chance to calm down, suddenly everything becomes clear. Mr. Harris pulled out his phone and set a timer for 5 minutes. Here's what I want you to do. Before you study anything, before you open a single book, sit down, close your eyes, and just focus on your breathing. In through your nose, out through your mouth. When your mind wanders, and it will, just gently bring it back to your breath. Do this for 5 minutes every single day. It sounds simple, and it is, but it works. Ethan was skeptical but nodded. Okay, I can try that. Good. Second lesson, focus on right now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, right now. Mr. Harris lit a candle that was sitting on his desk, one of those cinnamon-scented ones that smelled like fall. The flame flickered and danced. I want you to stare at this flame. Just the flame. Don't think about anything else. Not what happened at lunch today, not the test next week. Just this flame, right here, right now. Ethan tried. At first it was impossible. His mind kept jumping around. He thought about the basketball game this weekend, about that embarrassing moment in English class, about his mom nagging him to clean his room. But Mr. Harris's voice was patient. It's okay. When your mind wanders, just bring it back. No judgment, just bring it back. After a few minutes, something clicked. Ethan found himself actually focused on the flame. Nothing else existed for those few moments. That's it, Mr. Harris said softly. You see, we spend so much time replaying the past or worrying about the future that we miss the only moment we actually have, which is right now. When you're studying and your mind starts to drift, remember this candle. Bring yourself back to the present moment, to the page in front of you, to the problem you're solving. Practice this every single day. Ethan was starting to see a pattern. These weren't typical study tips. This was different. Third lesson, and this is huge, understand, don't just memorize. Most kids think studying means cramming a bunch of facts into their head the night before a test. But that's not learning, that's just temporary storage. Real learning is different. Mr. Harris pulled out 2 objects from his desk drawer, a yellow kitchen sponge and a smooth river rock. He grabbed a water bottle and held both objects over the desk. Watch this. He poured water over the sponge. It soaked right in, absorbed it completely. Then he poured water over the rock. The water just rolled right off. Didn't absorb a drop. Some students are like this rock. Information hits them and rolls right off because they're just trying to memorize without understanding. But students who actually get it, who ask questions, who connect new ideas to things they already know, who visualize concepts, who use real-world examples, they're like this sponge. The information soaks in and stays there. Ethan thought about his own studying. He realized he'd been the rock, just reading the same sentences over and over, hoping something would stick. So how do I become the sponge? Ethan asked. Ask yourself questions. Why does this work? How does this connect to what I already know? What's a real-world example of this? Draw pictures, create stories, explain it to yourself out loud like you're teaching someone else. Make it make sense to you, not just to the textbook. That made sense, real sense. Fourth lesson, break it down into bite-sized pieces. You can't eat an entire pizza in one bite, right? Same with learning. Mr. Harris pulled out a thick wooden block from under his desk. Try to break this. Ethan grabbed it with both hands and tried to snap it. Nothing. He tried again, grunting with effort. Still nothing. Can't do it, huh? Mr. Harris took the block and, using a small saw, cut it into several smaller pieces. Then he handed one to Ethan. Now try. Ethan snapped it easily. See? When you're staring at a massive chapter or a huge project, your brain shuts down because it's overwhelming. But if you break it into smaller chunks, suddenly it's manageable. Study for 25 minutes, take a 5-minute break. Study another chunk, take another break. The Pomodoro technique, some people call it. Small steps, consistent progress. That's how you climb a mountain. Ethan was writing mental notes in his head. This was actually making sense. And the fifth lesson, the one that ties everything together, practice every single day. Not when you feel like it, not just before a test. Every single day. Mr. Harris walked over to the window where he had two small potted plants. One was green and thriving. The other was brown and withered. I planted seeds in both of these at the same time. This one I watered every single day, just a little bit. This one I watered a bunch one day, then forgot about it for a week, then watered it again. Guess which one grew? The answer was obvious. Consistency beats intensity every single time, Mr. Harris said. 20 minutes every day will beat a 5-hour cram session every time. Your brain needs repetition. It needs to see information multiple times to really lock it in. So even if you only have 15 minutes, use them. Make it a habit, not a chore. Ethan sat there for a moment, letting it all sink in. 5 lessons. Calm your mind. Focus on the present. Understand, don't memorize. Break it into small pieces. Practice every day. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't some secret formula. It was just practical, real. You think I can really do this? Ethan asked quietly. Mr. Harris looked him straight in the eye. I don't think, Ethan. I know. You walked in here today, didn't you? That's the hardest part. Now you just have to trust the process and do the work. Over the next few weeks, Ethan started applying everything Mr. Harris taught him. Every evening before he studied, he'd sit in his room, close his eyes, and breathe for 5 minutes. At first it felt weird, like he was wasting time. But after a few days he noticed he felt calmer, more focused. When he opened his textbook, he wasn't immediately panicking. He practiced focusing on the present. When his mind wandered to worries about failing, he'd bring it back, just like that candle flame. Instead of just reading and rereading, he started asking himself questions. He'd explain concepts out loud to his dog, Max, who'd sit there with his head tilted like he actually understood. He broke his homework into chunks. 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off. Suddenly, studying didn't feel like this impossible mountain, and he showed up every day. Even when he didn't feel like it. Even when his friends were calling him to hang out. 20 minutes minimum, every single day. At first, nothing dramatic happened. His grades didn't magically jump overnight. But slowly, something shifted. He started understanding things in class. He could actually follow what the teacher was saying. He answered a question correctly in science class and didn't get laughed at. Then another, then another. By the end of the semester, his grades had gone from D's and F's to B's and C's. By the end of the year, he was pulling straight B's with a couple of A's mixed in. But more than the grades, something else changed. Ethan's confidence came back. He stopped seeing himself as the dumb kid. He realized he wasn't dumb at all. He just needed the right tools. He needed to understand how his own mind worked. 5 years later, Ethan graduated high school with honors. He got accepted into a great state university. He started his own tutoring business on the side, helping other kids who felt exactly like he once did. And you know what he tells them? The same 5 lessons Mr. Harris taught him that day in room 214. Because here's the truth. The truth Mr. Harris knew all along. Success isn't about being naturally smart or talented. It's about showing up, being consistent, and giving yourself the tools to succeed. If you're struggling right now, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you feel like giving up, remember Ethan's story. Remember that one conversation, 5 simple lessons changed everything. You've got everything you need inside you already. You just need to calm your mind, focus on the present, understand instead of memorize, break things down, and show up every single day. Your small efforts today will become your biggest achievements tomorrow. Your belief in yourself and your willingness to keep going, that's your superpower. So take that first step. Ask for help. Try something new, and trust that the process works. If this story inspired you, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to the channel because we're bringing you more stories like this every single week. Stories that remind you of what you're capable of. Until next time, keep believing in yourself. Your breakthrough is closer than you think.